I was halfway through my rehearsal dinner toast when the restaurant doors opened and two police officers walked straight toward our table. The private dining room went silent, 40 guests frozen mid-bite, watching the officers approach me specifically. My fiancé Marcus squeezed my hand under the table. "Are you Sarah Mitchell?" the taller officer asked. His nameplate read Officer Patterson. I set down my champagne glass carefully, aware of every eye on me. "Yes, that's me. We need to speak with you about a welfare check. Can you step outside with us?" Marcus started to stand. "What's this about?" "Sir, please remain seated. We just need to speak with Miss Mitchell." My heart hammered as I followed them into the hallway, leaving behind my confused bridesmaids and groomsmen. Through the glass door, I could see my maid of honor, Elena, already pulling out her phone. Officer Patterson pulled out a tablet. "We received a report about 2 hours ago. The callers expressed concern that you're being held against your will and coerced into a marriage tomorrow. They stated you've exhibited signs of being controlled and isolated from your family." The words hit me like ice water. I knew exactly who made that call. "Let me guess," I said, keeping my voice steady. The callers were Richard and Linda Mitchell. "My parents." The officers exchanged glances. The younger one, Officer Chen, spoke up. "You understand this is a serious allegation. We're required to follow up on reports like this." "I understand completely. And I also understand that filing a false police report is a crime." I pulled out my phone. "Would you like to see the restraining order I filed against them 3 weeks ago? Or the documentation of their harassment over the past 6 months?" Officer Patterson's expression shifted slightly. "You have a restraining order against your own parents?" "I do. They've been trying to stop my wedding since Marcus and I got engaged 14 months ago. This is just their latest attempt." I showed them the court documents on my phone. Officer Chen took notes while Officer Patterson scanned the order. "The report stated you haven't contacted them in months, and they're worried about your mental state," Officer Patterson said carefully. "They claimed you'd made statements about not wanting to go through with something tonight." I almost laughed. The only thing I said was that I didn't want to deal with their dramatics anymore. "Officer, my parents don't approve of my fiancé. They've done everything from showing up at my workplace to sending private investigators to follow us. That's why I got the restraining order." "And why don't they approve?" Officer Chen asked. "Because Marcus is black and I'm white. Because he's Methodist and they're Catholic. Take your pick. They have a list of reasons that all boil down to control." Officer Patterson closed his tablet. "Miss Mitchell, I need to ask you directly. Are you here of your own free will? Is anyone forcing or coercing you to marry?" "I'm marrying the love of my life tomorrow at 2 p.m., and it's the most certain decision I've ever made. The only people who've tried to force me into anything are currently violating a court order by having you here." The officers looked at each other again. Officer Patterson nodded slowly. "Given the restraining order and the circumstances, this appears to be a misuse of police resources. We'll note your statement in our report. You're free to return to your dinner. Will there be consequences for them filing a false report? That will be determined by our supervisor and potentially the district attorney's office. For now, enjoy your rehearsal dinner." I thanked them and walked back into the dining room on shaking legs. Marcus met me at the door, wrapping his arms around me. "What happened?" he whispered. "My parents called in a welfare check. Said I was being coerced." Elena appeared at my elbow. "Are you serious? Sarah, that's insane." "It's exactly what I expected," I said, loud enough for the room to hear. "Everyone, I'm so sorry for the interruption. My parents decided to try one last manipulation before tomorrow. But as you can see, I'm perfectly fine, perfectly safe, and perfectly certain about marrying this incredible man." I raised my glass toward Marcus. "So let's finish this toast, because nothing, and I mean nothing, is stopping our wedding tomorrow." The room erupted in supportive cheers, but I could see the concerned faces. My Aunt Carol, Dad's sister, looked devastated. Marcus's parents exchanged worried glances. His mother Diane came over as people returned to their meals. "Sarah, honey, maybe you should call them," Diane said gently. "Try to talk this out before tomorrow." "Mrs. Johnson, I appreciate your concern, but there's no talking to them. There hasn't been for a long time. Marcus's father, Bernard, joined us. We just don't want this cloud over your wedding day." "Then let's not give them that power," I said firmly. "They want us to spend tonight worried and tomorrow looking over our shoulders. I won't do it." But even as I said it, dread settled in my stomach. If they'd go this far the night before, what would they do on the actual wedding day? I should have seen it coming. I really should have. My parents hadn't always been like this, or maybe they had, and I'd just been too obedient to notice. Growing up, there were rules. So many rules. They tracked my location through high school and college. They chose my major business because art isn't a real career. Even though I dreamed of design school, they vetted my friends. They had passwords to all my accounts. When I graduated and got my own apartment at 23, they showed up unannounced weekly for inspections. When I changed my locks, they threatened to cut off the financial help they'd been giving me for my car payment. So I got a second job and paid off the car myself. When I set boundaries, they called me ungrateful. When I went to therapy, they told relatives I was having a breakdown. But I kept setting boundaries anyway. I moved across town. I changed jobs. I built a life that was mine. Then I met Marcus at a design conference 2 years ago. He was presenting on inclusive marketing, and his passion for using design to create equity made my heart stop. We talked for 4 hours over coffee. He was kind, brilliant, funny, everything I'd ever wanted and never thought I deserved. When I told my parents about him 3 months into dating, the response was immediate. You're making a mistake. This won't work long term. Think about the children. Do you really want to put them through that? I stopped sharing details about my relationship, but they found out when we got engaged through Facebook because I'd forgotten they still had access to my old account. Mom called 27 times in one day. Dad showed up at my office, demanding I think rationally about my future. The stalking started after that. Private investigators taking photos of us at dinner. My mother coincidentally showing up at my gym. Emails to my boss questioning my judgment. Letters to Marcus's employer about his character. When I told them I'd hired a lawyer, they escalated. They claimed I was being financially abused, showing the court my own bank statements they'd somehow accessed. They said Marcus had isolated me from family, ignoring that I'd been setting boundaries for years before meeting him. They tried everything to paint him as controlling, dangerous, a threat. The judge saw through it. The restraining order was granted. No contact. Stay 500 feet away. Violations could result in jail time. That was 3 weeks ago. And now, the night before my wedding, they'd found a new angle weaponizing the police. I didn't sleep well that night. Marcus and I stayed in separate hotels for the traditional night apart, and I kept checking my phone, waiting for the next crisis. Elena slept in the second bed in my room, refusing to leave me alone. You know they're going to try something tomorrow, she said in the darkness. I know. The venue has security. Your lawyer's on standby. We've alerted everyone in the wedding party. We're ready. I just want one day, I whispered. One day that's about love and joy instead of their control. You'll have it. We won't let them ruin this. But when my alarm went off at 7 a.m., my phone showed 6 voicemails from unknown numbers. I didn't listen to them. I blocked the numbers and focused on getting ready. The suite at the Rosewood Hotel buzzed with activity, hair, makeup, mimosas, laughter. My bridesmaids surrounded me with love and champagne. For a few hours, I almost forgot about the threat hanging over the day, until Elena's phone rang at noon. She stepped into the bathroom, then emerged with a tight expression. That was Officer Patterson. He wanted to give you a heads up. Your parents tried to file an emergency injunction this morning to stop the wedding. Judge denied it within 10 minutes, but he thought you should know they're escalating. My hands shook as the makeup artist applied lipstick. Did he say anything else? Just that they noted the restraining order violation in their system. Every call they make is documented now. Marcus texted me. Security just removed your dad from the parking lot. He tried to get into the venue. You okay? I responded, getting there. See you at 2. I love you. Love you more. Nothing stops us today. At 1:30, dressed in my gown with Elena fussing over my train, I heard commotion outside the bridal suite, raised voices. My Aunt Carol burst in, tears streaming. Sarah, please. Your mother's downstairs. She's hysterical. Just talk to her for 5 minutes. She's your mother. I looked at my aunt, this woman who'd babysat me, taught me to bake, slipped me $20 for ice cream. The same woman who'd stayed silent through years of controlling behavior, who'd made excuses, who'd chosen peace over my protection. Aunt Carol, I love you. But if you bring her up here, you'll have to leave too. The restraining order is clear. If she's within 500 feet of me, she's breaking the law. Security will remove her, and I will press charges. She just wants to see her daughter get married. Then she should have acted like a mother instead of a warden. I gave her chances. Years of chances. She chose control over connection. Carol's face crumpled. She's sick about this, Sarah. She hasn't slept in weeks. Neither have I, because I've been dealing with her harassment. My voice rose. She called the police on me last night. She tried to get a judge to stop my wedding this morning. She sent investigators to stalk me. At what point do you stop making excuses for her? Elena stepped forward gently. Carol, I'm sorry, but you need to go. Security's handling the situation downstairs. Sarah has a wedding in 20 minutes. After my aunt left, I broke down. Huge, gasping sobs that threatened to ruin my makeup. My bridesmaids surrounded me, holding me up. I wanted them here, I choked out. God! I wanted my parents at my wedding. I wanted my dad to walk me down the aisle. I wanted my mom to cry happy tears. I wanted normal. I know, honey, Elena whispered. But normal would have required them to choose love over control. That's on them, not you. The makeup artist fixed my face. My hands steadied. At 1:55 p.m., I stood at the back of the ceremony space, looking down the aisle at Marcus waiting for me. The string quartet played. 200 guests rose to their feet. I walked alone. No father to give me away because I wasn't property to be transferred. I walked myself to the man I'd chosen, the life I'd built, the future I was claiming. Marcus cried when he saw me. So did I. Happy tears, finally. The ceremony was perfect. Our vows were everything I'd dreamed. When the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride," Marcus dipped me dramatically, and the room erupted in cheers. We were married. Nothing had stopped it. But at the reception, during dinner, security approached our table. Officer Patterson was with them. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he said quietly. "Your parents are outside the gate. They're not leaving. They're filming, claiming they're being denied access to their daughter's wedding. We wanted to check before we have them arrested for violating the restraining order." I looked at Marcus. He squeezed my hand. I stood up. "I'll speak to them." "Sarah." "You don't have to," Elena started. "Yes, I do. One last time. Then it's done." Officer Patterson escorted me to the venue gate. Through the iron bars, I could see them. Dad in his Sunday suit, Mom in the dress she'd probably bought, hoping to be invited. They looked older, smaller. Mom's face was blotchy from crying. "Sarah, baby, please," Mom called out. "We just want to talk. We love you." I stopped 10 feet from the gate, well within the restraining order distance, since they were on the other side of the barrier. "You love me," I repeated. "Let me ask you something, Mom. When you hired investigators to follow me, was that love? When you called my boss to question my competence, was that love? When you tried to access my bank accounts without permission, was that love? We were trying to protect you. From what? Happiness? Independence? A man who treats me as an equal?" Dad stepped forward. "He's changed you. You never would have spoken to us like this before him." "You're right. I wouldn't have. I would have stayed quiet and obedient and miserable, just like you wanted." "Marcus didn't change me. He helped me realize I deserved better than the emotional prison you built." "We gave you everything!" Mom sobbed. "You gave me conditional love. Love that required obedience. Love that came with tracking apps and passwords and constant surveillance. That's not love, Mom. That's control." "Sarah, we're your parents," Dad said, his voice breaking. "We have a right. You have no rights over me. I'm 32 years old. I'm a wife now. I'm building my own family. And you are not part of it, unless you can accept me as an autonomous adult who makes her own choices. We can't just stand by and watch you make mistakes. Then don't stand by. Walk away. Because I'm done trying to earn your approval for my own life." I turned to Officer Patterson. "They're in violation of the restraining order. I want it documented. If they show up again, I want them arrested." "Understood," he said. "Sarah, Sarah, please." Mom's voice followed me as I walked back toward the reception. I didn't turn around. Marcus met me at the door, pulling me into his arms. "You okay?" "I will be," I said. "Dance with me?" He led me to the dance floor, and we swayed together as our first dance song played. Over his shoulder, I could see our friends and his family watching with love and support. I could see Elena giving me a proud smile. I could see the life I'd chosen, full of people who loved me without conditions. 6 months later, I'm sitting in our backyard, watching Marcus plant tomatoes in our garden. The restraining order is still in effect. My parents haven't tried to contact me since the wedding, at least not directly. They send messages through relatives sometimes, but I've learned to set boundaries there too. Aunt Carol apologized last month. Said she finally understood after talking to her own therapist about enabling behavior. We're rebuilding slowly, carefully. The wedding photos are on our wall. In every picture, I'm genuinely smiling. No performative happiness, no people-pleasing grin. Real joy. People sometimes ask if I regret cutting off my parents. The truth is more complicated than yes or no. I regret that they chose control over relationship. I regret that they couldn't love me as I am. I regret the family I wanted but never really had. But I don't regret choosing myself. I don't regret marrying Marcus. I don't regret the boundaries that saved my mental health. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes it means walking away from people who can't see you clearly because they're too busy trying to reshape you. Sometimes it means building a new family from friends, partners, and people who choose to love you wholly. I learned that you can't change people who don't want to change. You can't make someone respect your boundaries if they don't believe you deserve autonomy. And you can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm, even if those others gave birth to you. The hardest part wasn't the confrontation or the restraining order or even the wedding day drama. The hardest part was accepting that I might never have the parents I deserved, that some relationships are too toxic to save. That walking away wasn't giving up, it was choosing survival. But here's what I want people to know, especially if you're in a similar situation. It gets better. The guilt fades, the second-guessing quiets. The peace you find in a life lived authentically, surrounded by people who celebrate rather than control you, it's worth the fight. Document everything. Get therapy. Find a lawyer if you need one. Build a support system of people who validate your reality instead of gaslighting you. Set boundaries and enforce them, even when it hurts. And know that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. It's self-respect. It's the foundation of any healthy relationship you'll ever have, including the one with yourself. Marcus calls me from the garden, holding up a perfect tomato seedling. I walk over, and he kisses me with dirt on his hands and love in his eyes. This is my family now. This is my choice. This is my freedom. And I'd make the same choice every single day for the rest of my life.